We're getting the long-awaited Tesla numbers now for Q3. Phil LeBeau's got it. Hey, Phil.
Well, those who thought it would be a big quarter because, in part, the expiration of the EV tax credit drawing forward buyers, they were correct. 497,000 vehicles delivered in the third quarter by Tesla. Remember, these are global deliveries, but no doubt, I think over time, as we parse out the different regions and where the strength was, United States will be a big storyline there. 497,000 deliveries, by the way, is a record for any quarter for Tesla. In the quarter, they also produced 447,000 vehicles. And also energy deployments, a record quarter there, 12.5 gigawatt hours. That has been a strength for Tesla. For the year, they're now over 31 gigawatt hours of energy deployment. I think they did 36 last year, so they're clearly going to blow by that in the fourth quarter. But again, deliveries in the third quarter coming in at 497,000 vehicles. Guys, they report their Q2 or Q3 financials, after the bell on Wednesday the 22nd. That's when we'll hear from Elon Musk. He'll obviously be talking about deliveries, but we know what the story has been for some time with him, and it'll be that day as well when it comes to autonomous, AI, robotics. That's the main focus of what is pushing the Tesla shares right now.
Right. Phil, you brought us the Ford numbers yesterday where EVs were up almost 31. Now this. I mean, how are you sort of judging this pull forward given the tax credit expiration?
Well, we knew it would happen. And look, the Model 3 and Model Y both qualified for the federal EV tax credit of $7,500. So it was just a question of how many people wanted to get in on one of these vehicles before the expiration there. And remember, Tesla, in August, their U.S. share, I think it was about 38%. It has been coming down, but they still dominate the U.S. market. So we shouldn't be surprised that we see the surge in deliveries of 497,000. Again, yes, that's globally, and yes, they've had challenges in China, certainly a lot of challenges in Europe, but both of those have been stabilizing to a certain extent, and then obviously the surge here in the U.S. Not a surprise that they blew past the expectation of 456. 497, that's why you see the stock up, almost 3.5%, 4%.
I was just going to say, Phil, are you surprised about the move in the stock price? Because to your earlier point, so much of that movement has really been about the future of autonomous robo-taxis.
It's too hard to predict anymore, Courtney. In terms of when you see these delivery numbers, I'm not trying to be facetious here.
Sure.
This is completely a momentum buy into Elon's vision of the future stock. That is 100% what this is about. This does not trade on valuation metrics in terms of the auto industry right now. Do you believe that robotaxi will scale as quickly as many believe? And look, we just had a couple of analysts on who believe that it will scale very quickly. If you buy that, if you buy AI, if you buy autonomous, full self-driving, even separate from robotaxi being a huge revenue driver in the future, well, then you're buying this stock right now. You're not entirely sure how to value it, but you're buying it because you believe that Elon is focused on delivering his vision of the future.
Meantime, Phil, Stellantis is going to open up about 6. There's a broader discussion about consumers willing to look past, I guess, some tariff pressures when it comes to some of these imported cars.
Right. And with Stellantis, those are better than expected numbers. Look, Antonio Filosa has made it very clear. They are pivoting. They're not completely ditching electric vehicles, but they believe that electric extended range vehicles, so essentially you have a generator, a gas-powered generator on board that is constantly charging the electric motors. It allows you to go much further. That's the future. That's what they believe in. Now, they still will have some pure electric vehicles out there, but this is the big pivot that they're doing right now relative to the previous vision that was out there.
Hey, Phil, I was just trying to get up to date on the year-to-date deliveries for Tesla with this new number, 497. It looks like a little over 1.2 million, given the first and second quarters obviously were down. So last year was close to 1.8 million. So I guess we're still talking about a pretty, it would be a pretty good stretch in the fourth quarter to even come close to matching
it'll be huge.
Year.
And look, Mike, I think we're going to see a pullback in terms of sales here in the United States. And that's not a reflection on the Model 3 and the Model Y. That's a reflection of the fact that you take away a $7,500 federal EV tax credit, you're going to have fewer people buying EVs. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Q4 numbers are just not as strong as 497. Yeah, I could be wrong. We could see a rebound in China and in Europe, but I don't think, based on what we're seeing, that I would expect that.
As for some of the other competitors, Rivian's going to open down. I think this will be the 6th straight down session for Rivian if it holds these losses today, Phil, even though deliveries there were a beat. And then BYD, too. Monthly tumble first time this year.
Right. Well, let's start first off with Rivian. They narrowed their guidance for full-year deliveries. It was between 40,000 and 46,000. Now they have said it's 41.5 to 43.5. That's a pretty good drop on the top end there, which raises the question, as things start to slow down in the fourth quarter, what happens in the first couple of quarters next year as they move towards the next generation vehicle, which goes into production in central Illinois? Look, we talked with R.J. Scaringe in Georgia just a couple of weeks ago. He admitted that you're going to see a pullback in overall EV demand in the fourth quarter, but he thinks it stabilizes in early 26. I've talked to others who are like, I think he's a little too optimistic there. We're not entirely sure how much EV demand slows down here in the United States. And remember, Rivian is a U.S. EV play. That's different from BYD. When you look at BYD, what you're seeing there is a company that is dealing with more challenges in terms of its growth worldwide. A big part of BYD's growth, guys, has been rest of the world. We went down to Chile, and we saw how people down there are interested in Chinese vehicles. Why? Because they can come in at a lower price point. Central and South America have been huge growth engines for BYD. Southeast Asia is a huge part of where they're growing right now. Europe, yes, there's growth there, but the tariffs require them to start opening plants in Europe. So I'm not surprised that BYD is scaling back a little bit. One other thing to keep in mind about BYD, Carl, everybody always says BYD is going to pass Tesla. Yes, they have, but a big part of BYD's growth are hybrid vehicles. They are pure electric vehicles, but they also do huge sales when it comes to gas electric hybrid vehicles. And that's allowing them to withstand potentially a slowdown in global deliveries of EVs.
Right. Certainly reflected by Farley's comments this week over at Ford. That is big news for Tesla, though, as Elon Musk now becomes, I think, the first person with personal wealth over $500 billion. Phil, we'll come back to you later on it. Talk soon. That's our Phil LeBeau today.